Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and this movie is directed by Brian Neveldine and Mark Taylor, and it stars Nicolas Cage once again, and it's a sequel to the first Ghost Rider movie from 2007, and this one came out in 2011, even though it's technically a movie that came out in 2012, but IMDb says 2011. I think it was released in certain theaters in 2012, but I'm going to say 2011. I'm just going to go with IMDb on this one in case anyone's wondering why this one's in 2011. It's because I like to follow with IMDb, at this point at least. This movie wasn't exactly great, but at the very least I would say it's an improvement off of the first movie. And the main reason why I would say that is because, unlike the first film, I feel like this movie has a voice, it has some personality, and it has some action sequences that are kind of fun and memorable. And this movie is directed by, like I said, Neveldine and Taylor, and it's from the directors of Crank 1 and 2, and they also did Gamer. And those movies are very video gamey in terms of how they're presented, and they don't really have any logic to them. It's basically just get from point A to point B in whatever way that we want and just have fun with it. And lots of stuff going on to make that happen, and lots of fun editing choices in those films, and to some extent that exists in this film, although not as much. And I believe the reason for that is because there was some studio interference, and they kind of limited their creativity, so they couldn't exactly do what they wanted. And whenever this movie has their personality, that's when this movie is at its best for me. In the action sequences, very video gamey, and some fun music choices, and it's fun. And I like the design of Ghost Rider in this movie, and I believe they got Nicolas Cage mocapped, so whenever the character Ghost Rider, his head moved, it was actually Nicolas Cage doing all that. And I do think that was a good addition to this film, and also for the Ghost Rider they added smoke, because in the first film you just saw fire but no smoke, but this one there's fire and smoke, and it looks a lot better for me. The special effects in this movie are pretty inconsistent. It's mostly Ghost Rider that looks the best, and it's mostly just fire that looks kind of weird. And I know that Neveldine and Taylor usually go through a lot of cameras because they're risking their lives to get certain shots in action sequences, and they use cheaper cameras to get some of those shots because if they break, then it's not as big of a loss if it was an expensive camera that broke. And so the quality is going to be a little inconsistent in some of the action scenes. So that's just something you need to accept. That is just part of what they do. Just like in the first movie, Nicolas Cage is really funny in this movie, and he's very entertaining, and it's all I really want from the character, and he really does carry the movie for me. And without him, I think this movie would be pretty boring. And Idris Elba is kind of funny in it too. I wasn't really a big fan of the child actor. I found him to be kind of annoying, along with the main woman of the film. She wasn't great in my opinion, and sometimes her accent was inconsistent. Not throughout the entire film, but just in certain points. A few times her accent was kind of going all over the place, but she didn't really have much to work with, and there isn't really much character to her, and she's just trying to save her son, and that's about it. And this movie kind of sums up everything that happened in the first movie, even though not that much time has passed between this movie and the first film. It was 4 or 5 years or something. And because of that, it kind of just makes watching the first movie pointless in a way, but I would still recommend the first movie because I think it's hilariously bad. But this one, it's a little bit less ironic enjoyment, because I do feel as though there is a voice here, and I enjoyed seeing that play out on the screen, and that stuff was good, and most of that is just technical elements of the film, and Nicolas Cage giving an over-the-top performance, and Idris Elba being kind of funny in it too. And it's kind of like, am I laughing with it or at it? Because it is Neville Dean and Taylor, and it is kind of video gamey at points, which is their style. And that stuff is about 75% of the movie. The rest of the movie is kind of boring, which is kind of unfortunate, which I blame the studio for, because if it was just more entertaining, had more of like what Neville Dean and Taylor would do in their movies, then this movie would have been great. It would have been like a Crank 3 for me, like, or at least maybe something that I would enjoy as much as a Crank movie. But sadly, it's a bit tame because it is PG-13, and this movie is also shorter than the first Ghost Rider. This movie is almost like an hour and a half, and the first film is much closer to 2 hours. I think the first film was like an hour and 50. It's nice and short, and it moves along pretty quickly, and it doesn't really get bogged down with pointless exposition, and I do feel as though it moves along and at an acceptable pace. And I really enjoyed the climax to the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and the action is really fun. The personality, like in terms of how this movie is shot, is fun and memorable. And this movie is a lot more memorable unironically, I feel. Whereas the first one didn't really have much of that at all. It's just laughing at the movie. Overall, I would say I would watch this movie again simply because I enjoyed it enough. And I know a lot of people don't really like this movie, but I don't know. After watching the Crank movies and knowing what they are, like, watching this, it feels like something from them, and it made me appreciate this movie a lot more. This is why I would say it's an improvement, because personality for me goes a long way. Especially if it's a personality that I like. Check this movie out if you're interested. If you were a fan of the Crank movies, then check this movie out. And I think you'll enjoy it if you like those movies. Probably not as much, but still enjoyable at the very least. And with all that being said, I'm going to give Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos. As always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you thought of Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Pi, directed by Darren Aronofsky, so look forward to that. But until I get that up, thank you for watching, and have a great day.